All right, everyone. So we're going to work one page at a time, and that way you can have a way to review before your quiz. So I know we went over this in class, but just in case you got a little bit confused or forget how to do this, we're going to start by making a table of values, and we're going to start with our starting point. The way we find that is what would make this 0. X would have to be -7, and then we're going to take this value right here. So it would be -7 and 5. We're going to use the a value, which is -1, in just a minute. Now, in order to actually find the other points, I'm going to think about what are my perfect squares. And for the most part, I'm going to always use these 4 numbers. I could continue and do the next perfect square, 16, 25, but most of the time, only the first 4 are actually going to fit on the graph. So what I'm going to do is say, okay, well, if that equals the part inside the radical, x plus 7, then that will help me figure out what my x values will be so that I can put them in the table. So if I take away 7 from all of these equations, then I get different values for x. So if I take away 7 here, I get -7. If I take away 7 from both sides here, I get -6. If I take away 7 from both sides here, I get -3. And here I get 2. So those, I already have -7. So I'm just going to copy the other 3 down to make the rest of my table. And here's where the a value of -1 comes in. It's going to be the change from one y value to the next. So 5 minus 1 is 4. Minus 1 is 3, minus 1 is 2. All right, so now I can go ahead and graph. We have -7, 5, and then we go -6, 4, -3, 3, and then I have a +2, 2, so I need to make sure I go that way. Now, I put my starting point in a different color to remind myself that the arrow goes on the other side of the function. Our domain here is x is greater than or equal to -7, and our range is y is less than or equal to 5, because x starts here and it continues that way, and y starts here and it continues down. Oops, I erased that. 5. Okay, transformations. We have 3 transformations here. So our original function starts at 0, 0, and it goes up like that. So in order to get this new function, we had to go left 7, up 5, and that's just to move the starting point. And then we also reflected it down. Okay, next problem. Here, luckily, our radical only has x, so it makes it a little bit easier when we go to make our table. Our starting point is 0, -5. I don't take the opposite of that. I just take it as is because it's not inside the radical. And then because my radical doesn't have another number in it, I'm just going to list my 4 perfect squares, my first 4 perfect squares. Okay, a value here is 1. So to get the next, I'm just going to add 1 because that's what a is. So -5 plus 1 is -4, plus 1 again, -3, plus 1 again is -2. All right, starting point, we go 0, -5. And then we have 1, -4, 4, -3, 9, -2, arrow on the other side of the starting point. Domain x is greater than or equal to 0, and our range y is also greater than or equal to -5. And again, that's coming from either my starting point here, my starting point here. Take your pick. Transformations. I didn't go right or left, so that doesn't count. I did go down 5. Oops. And I didn't stretch it or shrink it because a is 1. and it's also positive, so I didn't reflect it. So that's the only transformation here. Okay, last one. If we have our starting point, x and y, our starting point here would be -3, -8. And again, I want to think about what would make x plus 3 equal 0, 1, 4, or 9. So if I take away 3 on both sides, I get -3. That's my starting point. If I take away 3 on both sides, I get -2. So that's going in my table. If I take away 3, I get 1. That's going in my table. And if I take away 3, I get 6. That's going in my table. Oops. Our a value is 2, and it's positive. So I'm going to add 2 to get each next term. Now this only works if I kept the order the same. If I switch up the order of any of these, it doesn't work anymore. So I have to use the 0, 1, 4, 9, and I have to put the numbers in the same order in order to do the a plus 2 part. Okay, plus 2 is gives me -6, -4, -2. Starting point is at -3, -8. Next is at -2, -6, and then 1, -4, and then 6, -2. So I get a much taller one, so that's going to be listed in my transformations. My domain is x is greater than or equal to -3. Our range is y is greater than or equal to -8. Transformations, we had 3 again. We went left 3. We went down 8 to get to my starting point. So think of it if you're plotting the point. You went left 3, down 8. And then we stretched it by 2. So if a is between 0 and 1, that's a shrink because I'm multiplying it by something less than 1. But if a is greater than 1, that is a stretch. All right, if you have any questions, let me know and we can do a Zoom chat.